That bass line, man. Oh my goodness. Let me just say right off the bat before I even introduce myself that this bass line is here to stay. I am literally going to play this for every single intro. This is the most awesome intro song ever. Anyways, how are you doing today? My name is Kevin Coe, and this is the Sideline Bleachers Podcast. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about the draft. Granted, it is March. Recording this on Wednesday, March 26th. It is like the season's not even over. But if you're a Laker fan, there are certain things you should actually be caring about. And last night's 31-point victory over the Knicks with that 51 franchise record-breaking quarter should not be something you really care about. Weird. These podcasts I'm going to do in the next upcoming weeks, it's only going to be about things that Laker fans, I feel, should care about and do care about. There hasn't been a 5 formidable facts this year because there hasn't really been a game to talk about, really, except those Kobe games. We're going to talk about who the head coach should be in these next upcoming weeks. Who should be the coach? What players should the Lakers pursue? And today we're going to talk about who should the Lakers draft? Yeah, the words draft and Lakers don't seem so synonymous. The thing is, like, the only guy who's really meant anything to us in the past 20 years that we've drafted or been involved in the NBA draft is Kobe Bryant. I mean, I guess you could throw D-Fish in there too, but it's Kobe. Other than that, you have Bynum, Sasha Vujacic, Jordan Farmar. Fact of the matter is, Lakers finally have a top 5 pick, and they didn't even have that with Kobe. This is the first time in a really long time they have that. Actually, they just fell out of the top 5 yesterday. Lakers have the 6th worst record in the league. And, with that victory yesterday, they fell out of the 5th spot. So now they're in front of or behind the Celtics for that spot. But who should the Lakers draft? College basketball season is about to wrap up. And we're going to talk about the guys that the Lakers should really look at. And the guys that they should totally stay away from, in my opinion. Now, this is all my opinion, and it's based on what I think it's going to be good for the Lakers. So, first and foremost, the fact remains. We don't know if Mike D'Antoni's going to be here next year. We think he is, but we're not really sure, which is kind of awkward, because depending on who the coach is and what kind of system wants to be run, it looks like that's the player you're going to take, right? The indication that the Lakers front office has been giving off is that player personnel is handled right now by Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak. So, I'm assuming Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss are just going to choose the best guy they see on the board. Now, who are those guys? Now, if the Lakers have a top 3 pick, you got to get these guys. You have to get Wiggins, and you have to get Jabari Parker. And yes, I did leave Joel Embiid out of there. I'm just going to, before I go through these guys one by one, just really quickly, if you have a top 3 pick and you're the Lakers, if the Lakers by some miraculous chance, those ping pong balls come out the right exact way and the Lakers win the draft lottery and they have the number 1 pick, I mean, I think everyone's sure it's between Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, and Joel Embiid. Andrew Wiggins a wing player, more of a guard, small forward, Jabari Parker like that. But Andrew Wiggins more athletic, Jabari Parker more polished offensively and fundamentally, at least on the offensive end. And Joel Embiid, who is, minus the back issues since he's had since high school, he's apparently the best big man that we've seen in a very, very long time. So, who should the Lakers take? Right in front of me, I have a list of 8 to 10 players that the Lakers could pick and with anywhere from a number 1 to a number 6 pick. Let's get through the easy ones first. Andrew Wiggins?
Oh, hell yeah!
You're taking him. Jabari Parker?
Oh, hell yeah!
You're taking him. Let's get those out of the way. Andrew Wiggins, at the worst, I see his lowest point being him being like a Tony Allen, where he can never find his jump shot, or he'll never get that polished offensively, but athletically, he is solid defensively. Solid. He has that athleticism that you can't teach, which is why I prefer him over Parker. But let's move on. Excuse me. Well, weird like burp and congestion. But let's move on to why people want Jabari Parker instead. Jabari Parker, really polished offensively. Stats very similar to when Carmelo was at Syracuse. People love this guy. But I don't remember Carmelo Anthony being taken out, during crunch time on defense. Because Jabari Parker, in that final game against Mercer, was being taken out on defensive positions. That's how bad defensively he apparently is. But he has a big body, and we can wait and see. But he is offensively talented. Joel Embiid, you're not going to get the Stone Cold Steve Austin soundbite for him. The scariest thing about Joel Embiid to me is his back issues. And if those issues never come up again, then he's probably going to be the, dependable, good big man reliable big man that everyone expects him to be. A force defensively, the length and athleticism to be able to block shots. And offensively, he's only been in the game for 2-3 years, and he's already fundamentally sound. Apparently, he has great footwork from what I've seen so far, but he has only been playing the game for some years. The very same things that go for him can also go against him. Oh, he's only been playing for a couple of years and he's that good? Oh, he's a quick learner. But he's only been playing for that many years? How do we know what he's going to be like after, he plays for a couple more? What if that potential isn't that, great? My biggest concern with Joel Embiid isn't the fact that he has the potential to turn out to be a great player, is that those back issues, they scare me. And if you're the Lakers and you've been dealing with all these injuries for so long, do you really want to go with another guy that has a high chance of being injured? After you dealt with the injured Dwight Howard and injured Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and Steve Nash for the past couple years? A little hesitant on that. We also have Julius Randle. Interesting. He's actually, as of today, he's the only one out of these high-level prospects that is still in the NCAA tournament, playing at Kentucky, who upset Wichita State. And no Stone Cold Steve Austin soundbite. No hell yeah. He is an athletic freak. The way he I see a lot of people comparing him to Zach Randolph, but not really. He's a bit more athletic than Zach Randolph is. Zach Randolph is a much better shooter than he is. But people get that comparison because he's an undersized big, but he always finds a way to get rebounds because he's so damn physical. And the biggest thing about Randle is that he is very aggressive on the boards. He is, very beastly. But he has short arms. Yeah, arm length isn't really there. Wingspan isn't really there. It's not... His physical attributes aren't going to blow you away. So I wouldn't say he's a guy you specifically want. For me, it's for the draft. And for me, the draft is mostly about picking guys who you think are going to pan out, right? Who you think are going to be able to contribute. And by the end of the day, you want the best player in the draft, right? You do. And with Julius Randle, the ceiling just isn't as high as other people. When I talk about other people, we've already talked about Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, Joel Embiid, now Julius Randle. When I talk about other people, I mean guys like Dante Exum from
Oh,
Australia.
hell yeah.
Let me repeat that. Dante Exum from Australia.
Oh, hell yeah.
There we go. The reason I like this guy is because there is a good amount of mystery behind Dante Exum. He is from Australia. He hasn't really played in college or anything. He's just played for his national team. He doesn't have a great jump shot. But I love this guy because he shares Kobe's agent. Is it Colangelo? He shares the same agent as Kobe. He's always at Staples Center. He's been there multiple times to watch the Lakers, and he's come out and said he wants to be drafted by the Lakers because he wants Kobe Bryant to nurture him and teach him how to be in this league and be an amazing basketball player. And after a year of going through Dwight Howard crap where he just would not appreciate Kobe Bryant at all and nothing that he would teach him, to see a guy that wants to come to the Lakers, wants to be a Laker, wants to add on to that history, wants to learn from one of the best in Kobe Bryant, that, my friend, deserves a Stone Cold Steve Austin little.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. The other guys, you have Marcus Smart from Oklahoma State. Now, these guys, if the Lakers get like a 6 and up, I could see them taking Marcus Smart.
Oh, hell yeah.
I could see that. Marcus Smart is a guy who just wants to win. And you saw that because he stayed in school, tried to get better, and he really loves that Oklahoma State team. And he would often, guys like Doug McDermott, who have this offense centered around them because they're the best player, that is not what Marcus Smart did. He was a leader of the offense, controlled the pace, but he often sent the ball the other way, trying to post up his teammates, trying to get his teammates open looks. Towards the end of the year, you could see him being a lot more ball-centric, and he was, it was kind of a crapshoot with that. It was 50-50. It wasn't the most reliable thing. But Marcus Smart does have the potential to be a good player because he always finds a way to improve. He just started playing point guard when he came into college, came to Oklahoma State. So this guy is a willing learner. He is strong physically, and he has the basketball tools. He's a fundamentally sound guy. And he may not have the point guard skills, but he could be undersized too. But I think he will eventually be a top guy in the league. And he has a lot of potential to be one of those guys who can attack the basket very well. And his jump shot has come along in the past couple years. So Marcus Smart,
Oh, hell yeah.
you got the stamp of approval. Tyler Ennis, not so really. Kyle Anderson was on, I think, Draft Express. He was a top 5 pick in their mock draft, which was crazy. Just because he's Kyle Anderson.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I don't think the Lakers are going to take him that low. Guys like Aaron Gordon, if we have the 6 or above.
Oh, hell yeah.
Aaron Gordon, baby, I do like that. I do. If the Lakers, pulled something weird that day and just traded their early pick, if they got one, for 2 later picks, I would love to see them get a guy like Zach LaVine.
Oh, hell yeah.
Possibly Rodney Hood.
Oh, hell yeah.
Maybe get Doug McDermott.
Oh, hell yeah.
I like those 3 guys later in the draft. And I think you could also get, as we already said, Marcus Smart.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think you could get him later on too. So that concludes, who I think the Lakers, who I think the Lakers should draft. These are the guys. And yes, I just really want to press the hell out of this Stone Cold Steve Austin soundbite. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just to wrap it up, Jabari Parker. I'm struggling with this thing, man. I still can't believe he got taken out on defense. It's weird. So let's go down the list. The Lakers should the Lakers draft Andrew Wiggins?
Oh, hell yeah.
Jabari Parker?
Oh, hell yeah.
Joel Embiid? Yeah. Julius Randle? Yeah. Dante Exum?
Oh, hell yeah.
Aaron Gordon?
Oh, hell yeah.
Marcus Smart?
Oh, hell yeah.
I like that. And honorable mentions, of course, go to Rodney Hood, Zach LaVine, Rodney Hood over at Duke, Zach LaVine, Kyle Anderson, Doug McDermott, who he's a good shooter, right? But I just wonder how he does in a non-Creighton offense, because if you watch Creighton, it's all about him. And can we please get someone to compare Doug McDermott to a guy that isn't white? Please. Every NBA comparison I've heard of Doug McDermott, it's been a white guy. Why can't he play like a crappier Paul Pierce or something, right? Why does he have to be the next Larry Bird or Ryan Anderson? I don't get it. That's gonna do it for this podcast. Next week we're gonna have another podcast coming at you. We'll either talk about the head coach or free agents that they should pursue, or if any news comes up. Dodgers actually start playing this weekend. They already opened up the regular series, but they open up the regular series in America. In America, your Dodgers are 2-0, coming back from Australia and beating those Arizona Diamondbacks. But as of now, the Dodgers don't start again until the weekend. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I almost forgot. Going to have to say, take a look at Gary Harris from Michigan State. He looks like one of those guys that can totally just shoot up people's draft boards. And he has that potential. So if you're watching the tournament, keep an eye on Gary Harris from Michigan State. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I was pulling up this audio right here from Ray Audio. He's Ray Williams, friend of mine. Him and his friend over here. This is Ray. But Jason C., I don't know how to really explain it. They were over at South by Southwest in Texas. Awesome. Ray, keep getting them checks, brother. Do your thing. This is his song right there, $1 Million Song. Look him up. Google him. Ray Audio. Jason, that's with 2 S's though. C. $1 Million Song. Favorite song from these guys. I'm going to play it out to leave you guys here. And just for good measure, can I get a hell yeah? Wasn't as loud as I hoped it would be, but regardless, see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining in.
Them dishes, they get that money now. Get they child whatever they want. It's all respect, I've been there. My mama single mommy for 3 kids. I was a little prince, got everything I ever wanted. She went out and bought it, now it's backwards. She deserves the world, gave a couple mil to show out.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here on the AKS show. With me, Trevor Angone, my broadcasting partner, Kevin Coe.
How you doing?
Thank you so much for dropping in on us this afternoon. We're going to give you what you love right after a little bit of Randy Newman right here. Who doesn't love LA, at least here on the SMC campus?
Exactly right.
At least I think you could at least get away saying that, Kev.
And this song is like the LA sports song, right? They play it all the damn time.
It's, how the Yankees play, New York, New York, by Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's LA's version of New York, New York. We hear it at Laker games. We hear it at Dodger games. I'm pretty sure I've even heard it at Kings games. So, definitely representing for our hood.
Yes, sir.
Kev, a lot of LA stuff going on right now, brother.
Yeah.
We got some Dodger situation going on. We got a little bit of Puig. I mean, when isn't Puig in, the national news, in the local news, off season, playoffs, regular season, whatever. A couple other crazy things going on with the Dodgers, and then us, we're going to touch on the Lake Show. We're going to talk a little Kobe, maybe talk a little Phil, let everybody know what's going on. But, Kev, man, what a weird beginning of the season for the Dodgers, man. I mean, we start off in Australia. We have a couple of regular season games, and then I guess I did not look ahead to the schedule to realize that we would have those 2 regular season games, and then we'd wait a week and a half or 2 weeks till the real regular season started. Now looking back and seeing what everybody was saying about how weird or how they weren't fans of the whole Australia situation, I think the biggest reason why I'm now not a fan is because of this whole disjointed beginning of the season. I mean, like we were just talking about, Dodgers have those 2 games in Australia. Now, they're going to play exhibition games against the Angels
Exactly.
and then start the regular season. Like, dude, where are you coming out on this?
It's really weird how they set this up, but at the same time, I do understand the reasoning for it because, first off, this is so weird. They play both games technically on the same day. In Australia, they both played it on March 22nd.
That's crazy. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, in technicalities, right?
Jeez.
So then they won both those games. So that's awesome. At least, right? At least the least we can do is win both of those games. But there's 8 days because in between the next regular season game, and in between, the reason I can understand the logical side of why they would put those games in between. Those exhibition games against the Angels, which we're going to play very soon, is to warm them up, get them used to the United States West Coast time zone after traveling halfway across the world. That was my logic. But going to Australia in general defies all logic anyways. So I don't know, man. I don't technically, you already know I hated this trip.
You and Granky, you guys were not fans.
Me and Granky, we hated this trip, and who cares now? It's over. We got those 2 wins. It's just weird because everyone else hasn't played yet.
And like we were saying before the broadcast, man, if you're a player and you have to go to Australia, you have to play 2 games. The games are being aired over in the United States at 2 or 3 in the morning, and you're technically starting your season over there in Australia. Then you have to, kind of take your foot off the gas for a week. It's just so disjointed and weird. And, if the Dodgers get off to a little bit of a rough or shaky start, everybody's going to be talking about this Australia stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, it's so easy to call. It's right there. Writing's on the wall. It's dead in front of us.
At least the NFL sent, some bad teams over to London. Right? I forget.
Jaguars, I think.
Jaguars, yes. And
Rams maybe? Wasn't it Jaguars
it was Giants or something in the middle of their worst year ever?
Yeah.
They send the Giants over there.
That was weird. What's crazy? In the newest version of Madden, they have, the franchise. And, I guess nowadays you can do owner mode and you can move franchises, but I was dipping into the franchise not as an owner but just as a coach or whatever. I mean, whatever the heck the thing is where you just pick the plays and play. And the very first thing that started off the season was that the Rams were being moved to London.
Oh, God.
And it's crazy because a video game kind of brought in my perspective to think geez, what if London got a team before LA? How crazy would that be? It's so ass backwards,
That's on purpose, in my opinion. The NFL got Madden to do that to ease people with the idea of a team moving to London. Because, we're sure it's going to happen sooner or later, right? But, who cares where the NFL goes? As long as we have football each week and we have our fantasy football teams, we'll all be straight. we were talking about the Dodgers, Trev, and the one thing, the biggest storyline right now, as we were talking about, when is he not the storyline, is Yasiel Puig. The wild horse, as Vince Scully likes to call him.
Actually, a great point that you made right before we started was how the first game of the season in Australia, we're waiting to see highlights because we're in LA, so we're blacked out, or at least I am right now because I have DirecTV, so we're waiting for the Dodgers network to get picked up, just like we had to wait for the Lakers network to get picked up a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
So we had to watch highlights on SportsCenter, and if we're watching highlights on SportsCenter, we're expecting to see a traditional highlight, maybe start from the first inning, go through the middle innings, and end with, hopefully a climactic finish. But what did we see, Kev? What do we see?
We saw 3 of Puig's at-bats before they even talked about the game. They didn't even talk. It was Puig highlights, not Dodgers, Diamondbacks highlights from Australia. It was just straight up Puig highlights. And that's really, the thing is, this kid, if he has the problems that everyone says he does, dealing with America, this and that, the media is not making it any easier for him. What other player in baseball, who hasn't, if you're not taking steroids or whatever, getting busted for doing something bad, is getting this much attention for negative reasons? And it's not because he hasn't cheated the game, unless you're like a baseball weird purist from St. Louis or Atlanta.
Exactly, crazy conspiracy theorist.
But he hasn't hurt anyone. He hasn't done anything, totally against the game. Yes, he's made a few mistakes here and there, and that's something that him and Don Mattingly have to figure out. But this onslaught of attention, negative attention from the media is just killing us, man. It's killing us, and I think it's giving Puig that impression of, this is America? Really? And if this guy apparently is having a hard time adapting as it is, imagine how hard it is that he's getting all this attention.
Yeah, and remember last year, the guy was, on a raft trying to get from Cuba to Florida,
Exactly.
within the last 2 or 3 years. Then he comes up on like 60 mil. So that's just such a crazy shock in itself. And, you can only imagine what it must be like to be in Puig's shoes and go from literally absolutely nothing to, pretty much becoming an instantaneous millionaire. So it definitely is, crazy to think. And you can kind of cut him a break when you start to kind of think along those lines. But, as far as what's going on right now with the guy, you told me earlier today that Puig was having a closed door meeting with Mattingly, correct?
Yeah.
And they were going to quote unquote clear the air. I think we kind of know what's going on. Even during the preseason, we had all the, going 100 mile an hour stuff. And then, we had the, oh my gosh, he's 25 pounds overweight situation. And, now, like we obviously saw from, mainstream, sports media, East Coast, especially, he is not tearing it up right off the bat like he did last year. So, what do you think exactly went on behind those doors, Kev? Where do you think Mattingly was coming from, and how do you think he really tried to reach Puig? I
think Don Mattingly might have been a little surprised how far his comments went about Puig, because if I can just grab his quote right here, he said he was talking to reporters, and Mattingly loves to joke around, be sarcastic. He's a guy's guy, and after the game, after those games in Australia, Mattingly said, quote, Puig grabs something every time he takes a swing and misses, pretending to be hurt, just swinging and missing, trying not to look embarrassed. So he'll grab something and be like, oh, it hurts, And that blew up, and it caused this big stir over ESPN over these past couple of days, where they're doing, just Puig talking about, does this guy need to change? Does he need to do this? Does he need to do that? Why does he not understand our culture? And I say, man, I didn't think he was going to get that much attention for those quotes. I think we've just gone into an age or into a time period where last year Puig was coming up. He got a lot of good, positive attention. But towards the end of the season, we saw that negativity arise. And I think that's carried over onto this season. And I think it's just unleashing. Because if you thought Puig Mania was big last year, everyone's waiting to see how he does this year. Everyone's just waiting for that. And I think Don Mattingly was like, okay, my comments got a little too far. Let's have a closed meeting with Puig. Keep the media out. Don't discuss what we actually talked about, but let's talk about it, mano y mano. If there is like a language barrier, as people say, who cares? There's language barriers all the time in baseball. There's no one manager that knows every single language, I think.
That'd be pretty impressive, manager.
That'd be impressive as hell, right? But the fact of the matter is, most of the time, it's not going to happen. So there's always language barriers. And I think this thing is getting way overblown, man. It's a player who needs to learn how to do certain things, and he has a manager who's going to teach him. But the media wants to know everything right now about Puig, because Puig is the story.
Yeah, definitely getting overblown, man. You know, it's funny. If you remember when you played, like, Little League Baseball or, not necessarily T-ball, but just Little League Baseball, when you were, a little kid, you weren't even in your teens yet. I remember being in the batter's box, maybe striking out, and, when you're a little kid, you can't help but, try to argue the strikeout call, because you're so young and it's a little embarrassing and, it's just instinct. So, to see Puig doing the same kind of thing that we would be doing in Little League.
Yeah, exactly. Or we would be doing right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, right? If there was actually like rec baseball, because there's rec basketball everywhere. Like you could grab a football and just go outside, play catch. It's very hard to play recreational baseball. But if I could, I would be Puig.
Yeah, really.
I'd be swinging my bat like Gary Sheffield. First of all, while I'm in the batter's box, and then after every hit, I do a bat flip. Because he's... You know why, Trev? Because I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
I'm not playing for anything, technically, like, I want to win the game, of course, but I'm just playing to have some fun. That's what Puig's doing, and I like that. But I think it is interesting to me, and it's going to be interesting to a lot of people. Can you do that in the postseason? Is it gonna cost you in the postseason? And that's what everyone's all worked up about. When are these mistakes gonna catch up to him? Yada yada yada. And you know what? In a sport like baseball, where there's all these games and doing 30% of the time is a good thing.
You're a god.
Yeah, exactly. If you do something 30% of the time, it's a good thing. We have no idea what's going to happen in a 7-game series. We just don't. Baseball is just that crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely something for us Dodger fans to ponder. And like you said, everyone's wondering, can he perform in the playoffs? Because we saw this last season against St. Louis, he didn't necessarily come through. Neither did Kershaw, even though he was on the type of schedule that Bulldog was back in 1988. So, you can't really, hold it against him, hold it against Puig. Now, we talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the show, this whole weird schedule situation, a big 8-game gap or 8-day gap, and then we have these quote-unquote exhibition matches against the Angels.
Freeway series.
Now, starting off the regular season this Sunday, we got the Pods, and then we got the Giants twice and the D-backs twice in like our first 5 matchups. So, Kev, do you think that the 8-game break plus these weird exhibitions after we already started the season, now we have to go up against division rivals. Do you think that this is the makings of some type of a storm? I don't know about necessarily a perfect storm, but, can you see there being, repercussions from, what we're scheduled to have to deal with coming up in the next week or two?
One of the best joys in the world is playing hindsight because you are always right. And looking back at this Australia trip, if you're a Dodger fan, you got to love it, right? Because you won those 2 games. So you can't be happier if you did that. I actually think these exhibition games that are really weird, people think it's going to tire them out. I like it because if you're getting tired in a baseball season, you're just a professional baseball player.
Yeah, exactly.
You're playing baseball all the damn time. But, we already know Don Mattingly. I'm sure he gives guys rest when they don't need it. And now that they're on this weird time schedule, I'm sure Don Mattingly is going to pull all those crazy double switches that he loves to do all the time. But, I like those 2 games because it gets they get to put their feet back in the water a little bit before they have to swim with the Sharks and the NL West, if you want to call them Sharks, because I think most of us think the Dodgers are going to go off with this NL West. But I like the schedule in the beginning. It's 3 against San Diego, 3 against San Francisco, 2 against Detroit, which is interesting. I'm actually going to that Tuesday game against Detroit. Cool. And then 3 more against Arizona, 3 against San Francisco, 3 against Arizona. So we're looking at, other than 2 games, almost 15. I can't count that quick, but like 15, 16 of those games. It's all NL West. That's awfully awesome to me.
Yeah, it's like seeing an old familiar friend, that you might have had, interesting, not necessarily beef with. When it comes to the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, don't even forget about the Giants or the Padres even, man. Who haven't we beefed with like hardcore in our division over the last season or two? It's a pretty crazy start, brother.
What's awesome though is that these are the same teams we're going to see all the damn time throughout this season. So I do like that we're just playing them all in the beginning. I think they do that all the time anyway in every other baseball season. But, you got to like it with these Dodgers especially because you're really kind of skeptical about how's that locker room going to be?
Yeah.
How are they going to pull through certain things? Especially when they play these, let's admit it, teams that they should be, like the Padres. San Francisco, you could put it here and there. But, teams that aren't so good, like the Phillies, they've fallen off a lot since they had that amazing pitching staff with like Roy Oswalt, Roy Halladay, Cole Hamels. It was just off the charts.
They had that fire sale last couple of years, right? I mean,
they've been selling, man. I think they're trying to get back into it this year. But, you like this Dodgers team the way it is. That the only thing is this whole Australia thing that might just screw everything up, but we're not going to know until it happens.
No fear.
No fear, brother. I think we're pushing time right now. It's like at 16, but when we can talk Lakers, we're going to talk Lakers. Real quick, before we move on from the Dodgers, I just want to ask, that 5th pitching spot is going to whom? Is it going to Beckett?
I mean, do you remember the reports we were getting in the offseason that, he was going to be healthy or, he was, attempting his big last comeback or whatnot? I mean, if we're going to pay the guy, I would really like to see if he can do something for us. But, dude, you and I both saw, he's been with us, this will be his 3rd season so far? Or, I mean, we saw that little tail end of that first season, all of last season. I mean, I think we've come to expect nothing from the guy. So, hey, if we're expecting nothing and we get something, I mean, that's cool, I guess. But, yeah I'm definitely not putting my chips in the pot when it comes to Beckett necessarily, brother.
Yeah, I say we throw Beckett out there because, I mean, he was good at one point. Let's hope he gets better sooner or later. But he's been injured a lot, But Billingsley, he's coming back from that Tommy John, right?
Yeah, Bills, man. He's my guy. Like, I would say he's kind of like my under-the-radar pitching guy. I mean, he came in like we know with...
He's a Dodger. That's what we all love about him. He's a Dodger.
Man. He's a Dodger. Just like, when we had to say bye to Loney, he was a Dodger. So, like you said, he came in with Kemp and, right in that same area as Kershaw and all those guys, Ethier. So, definitely one of our guys, if he could just stay healthy, man. I mean, he's like our generation's Darren Dreifert almost,
Wow. I haven't heard that name in a while.
Oh, gosh, yeah, I'm sorry I brought it up. I didn't mean to dredge up those types of painful
totally
memories,
startled me right there. Let's talk Lakers real quick. I hate to do it, but, they came off a win last night, so I don't really mind as much. 51-point quarter, which is insane.
Franchise record I saw?
Yeah.
Crazy,
Which kind of sucks because this is like the worst year.
Yeah. But, no Kobe even out there, you know?
At least D'Antoni did what he's supposed to do, score points, right?
Oh, my gosh.
So Kobe was on Mike and Mike this morning, and, basically let me just read the quote and what he said. Right now, we need to decide what our culture is going to be. In that, I'll definitely have some input in. In terms of what attitude we're going to have as a franchise, what is our DNA going to be? Once we establish that, I'll step back and they can go from there. Hearing that, we don't need Phil Jackson because that is all Phil Jackson is going to New York to do, as we already talked about. Shape the culture, change the mindset, bring in a philosophy. Kobe, if you want Phil Jackson, you have Kobe, who is basically Phil's teacher's pet. He was always following Phil around, and Phil is. It's no secret that Kobe has like this weird infatuation with Phil Jackson, which obviously has rubbed off onto Laker fans. But if we have Kobe and if Kobe's going to do this, I mean, who cares if Phil left, right?
I mean, when it comes down to it, like we were talking about a little bit last week, Phil was never going to jive with the new Lakers situation. Jerry's not around anymore, so now it's just Jim. And if Jim were to bring in if Jim were to bring in Phil, you're essentially giving over complete control of the Los Angeles Lakers organization to the power couple, Jeannie Buss and Phil Jackson. Because if you were to give Phil what he has in New York, you are giving him what Jim has in L.A. And, dude, we know Jim. We know the Busses. We know Jim and Jerry especially. Dude, no way in hell would they have ever let something like that happen. So, like we were saying, dude, like not even... didn't even really pass through my mind, after we went and secured D'Antoni, as if we were ever going to get Phil, like on the real tip. Just, never really, saw that happening with, Jim's history.
So really interesting thing. Jeannie Buss had this interview with Mason in Ireland, around last week, and she came on there and she actually said, she declared herself the boss of the organization, basically, that every last move goes through her. And it was really interesting to hear that, because up till now, from guys like Stephen A. Smith, we've been hearing Jim Buss has the final say on all these things. Jim Buss. And Jeannie just came out and said, no, I put Jim in charge of basketball stuff. If I think he's doing a bad job, which was, is Phil's job in New York. If I feel like he's doing a bad job, and if they're not producing, then I'll kick him off at any time. But I trust him, and I trust where he is going right now. So it is Jeannie's decision. And Jeannie is in charge of the Lakers organization. She just trusts her brother. And you know what? I just have to. We can't do anything about that.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, if Jeannie is going to put herself out there, put her rep on the line and say that she trusts Jim, I mean, we all have appreciation. I think everyone in LA, they're Jeannie fans before they are Jim fans. So, she has a lot more leeway. We give her a lot more benefit of the doubt. That being said, it is a little startling, So, I'll cross my fingers and, like we were saying, I will give her the benefit of the doubt, but it is still a little bit scary. Now, the last thing I'll say about Lakers today, bro, is the whole Kobe quote, being on Mike and Mike, when I heard the quote, where I came out on the other end was it sounded like Kobe didn't want to waste his time. It sounded like once he feels that the organization has done their due diligence, gone out there, made their run at any and all possible free agents that he felt could make the team better or, elevate his chances at winning a championship in his last couple of seasons, 2, 3, what have you. Once he had peace of mind knowing that they had done everything possible, then, like you said, he'll take a step back, right? So it's almost like he wanted to guarantee himself that he wasn't going to be wasting his time. And, dude, you can't blame Kobe. He's, one of the, top 5 greatest players of all time. He is an absolute legend in Los Angeles, a folk hero almost, right up there with, Magic Johnson.
And if you're a 35-year-old shooting guard coming off of an Achilles tear, and you got 2 years left on your contract, which, is everyone's assuming that after that it's over for you, who would not be in a rush?
Right.
Who would not want to not waste any time? Real quick, what I thought about those comments, just concluding on this, and we're way over time, but I do not care, is that Kobe was basically saying, we have to get that mindset, and we have to get that, we all have to be on the same page. And once once we have that mindset and what our culture is going to be, then I'll take a step back. If Kobe wants to implement his kind of culture, then what he's saying is, if these guys and myself are all on the same page, they're basically gonna do what I agree with anyway, right? So that's what I took from it, is Kobe is basically assuming that they're going to make moves that he can comply with, that he can agree with. Because, hey, if you're thinking like I'm thinking, then if you get a player, then I should totally be okay with it and comply with it, right? Because we do have the same mindset, right? And I think Kobe might be a little disappointed, because I don't know what's going to happen next year, but it doesn't look good. Final thoughts.
Yeah, as far as next year, Kev, I think we're probably not putting our expectations, at the level of, coming down with a Western Conference Championship appearance or, maybe even a run at another championship next year. But like we talked about the last couple of times, if we can just get lucky for the first time in a few decades and get a great player in this draft, then next year will be another step taken at that eventual final run for Kobe and his unicorn of a 6th or 7th championship.
You know what? I just hope Kobe Bryant goes back to his fountain of youth in Germany and balls out next year.
Go back to Germany, Kobe!
Germany.
Schnell, go!
They got something there, man. They got something.
I'm into it.
Thank you so much for listening to the AKS podcast. We appreciate it. For Trevor Angone, I am Kevin Coe, and today we did talk about Puig. We did talk about the Lakers and Dodgers. We got all that good stuff. We'll be right back for you next week talking Lakers and Dodgers. The Dodgers regular season will be underway, and we'll be surely talking about that. And anything else?
We got love for y'all. We got love for all y'all.
Lots of love. We'll leave you out with some explosive. See you next week.
bitch, nigga. You more of a bitch than a bitch. You ain't into hitting pussy or hitting the switch. You into hitting bitches off of the grip, you punk bitch. Bitch,
all
bitch.
my real dogs still kicking with me. All my down hoes still tricking with me. All the true gangsters know they ain't never loved no gold.